are you all doing today? Hope you all are good and enjoying. So, I'm Maria.
And I am Alex. Welcome back to our English podcast.
Today, we are going to learn English by listening. I want you all to put earphone and just listen to me. Today is going to be very special and interesting. So, are you ready?
That sounds interesting. We all are ready.
So, Alex, you don't have to do much talking today. You just have to listen to my story.
We're listening, Maria.
Then sit back, relax, and let's begin. It all started the night before my graduation felt different from every other night of my college life. I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, watching the faint shadows move across the walls of my room. Every time I closed my eyes, another thought appeared. Sometimes I imagined myself walking across the stage. Sometimes I wondered if I would trip in front of everyone. Sometimes I thought about all the memories I had made during the past few years. Sleep simply refused to come. I checked the clock again. 2:13 a.m., then 3:07 a.m., then 4:01 a.m. My mind was filled with excitement, nervousness, and a strange sadness that I couldn't explain. This was my last day as a college student. The thought felt unreal. Eventually, I gave up trying to sleep. The first rays of sunlight had not even appeared when I sat up in bed. The room was quiet. Outside my window, the world was still waking up. For a few moments, I simply sat there. Today was the day. My graduation day. The day I had imagined so many times. The day that would officially close one chapter of my life and begin another. I slowly pushed away my blanket and placed my feet on the cold floor. My heart was beating faster than usual. I walked to the mirror and looked at my reflection. Today is the day, Maria Johnson, I whispered to myself. The name sounded strange and exciting at the same time. I smiled nervously. Then I began getting ready. Mm, I opened my wardrobe and stared at my clothes. I had planned this outfit weeks ago, but somehow nothing looked right anymore. I touched one dress, then another, then another. My mind kept changing. Too simple, too formal, too bright, too boring. Finally, I chose the dress I had imagined wearing on graduation day. It was elegant without trying too hard. It felt like me. I carefully laid it across my bed. Next came the accessories. I opened the small jewelry box that sat on my dressing table. Inside were several pairs of earrings, tiny silver studs, golden hoops, pearl earrings. I picked up one pair and held it next to my face. No, I tried another. Still, no. After several minutes of indecision, I chose a delicate pair that sparkled softly whenever they caught the light. Simple, elegant, perfect. Then came my hair. I stood in front of the mirror trying different styles: hair down, half up, ponytail, loose waves. Nothing felt right. Every style seemed wrong for one reason or another. I laughed at myself. Graduation was only a few hours away, and I was standing in front of a mirror arguing with my own hair. Eventually, I settled on a soft hairstyle that framed my face naturally. When I finished, I stepped back and examined myself carefully. Better, much better. I reached for my lip balm. The familiar scent instantly calmed me. I applied a small amount and smiled. It was a tiny detail that nobody else would notice, but somehow it made me feel more confident. One by one, I finished all the little things. adjusting a necklace, checking my earrings, fixing a loose strand of hair, straightening the sleeves of my dress, looking at the clock, checking my appearance again, looking at the clock once more. Everything felt important. Everything felt memorable. As I walked downstairs, the smell of breakfast filled the house. Normally, I would have been hungry, but not today. Today, my stomach was full of butterflies. I sat at the dining table and looked at the food: toast, eggs, fresh fruit, my favorite breakfast. Yet I couldn't take more than a few bites. My roommate noticed immediately. Nervous? She asked with a smile. I laughed softly. Very? At that exact moment, the front door opened. I turned around and froze. My parents had returned from Australia. For a second, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Then excitement rushed through me. I stood up so quickly that my chair nearly tipped over. Mom! Dad! I ran toward them and wrapped my arms around both of them. The nervousness disappeared for a moment. The anxiety disappeared for a moment. All I felt was happiness. They had made it. They were here on the most important day of my college life. My father's eyes filled with pride as he looked at me. Look at you, he said. Our little girl is graduating today. I laughed, but hearing those words nearly made me cry because deep down I knew something had changed. I wasn't that little girl anymore, and by the end of the day, I wouldn't simply be a student either. I would rather be a graduate. After spending a few precious moments with my parents, reality slowly returned. Graduation. The word echoed in my mind once again. I glanced at the clock and immediately realized I needed to leave soon. The nervous feeling returned, not as strongly as before, but enough to remind me that this day was real. I picked up my bag and checked everything at least 3 times: phone, keys, lip balm, college ID, certificate invitation. Everything was there. Yet I still checked again. My mother laughed. You've checked that bag 5 times already. I know, I said, smiling nervously. I just don't want to forget anything. My father shook his head. You could probably forget the entire bag and still remember your lip balm. We all laughed. For a moment, the tension disappeared. Then it was time. The car ride to college felt much shorter than usual. I sat near the window watching familiar streets pass by. The bakery where my friends and I used to buy snacks after classes. The bus stop where I spent countless mornings waiting. The small coffee shop where we studied before exams. Every place seemed connected to a memory. It felt as though the city itself was reminding me of my college journey. I wondered how many times I had traveled this exact route without realizing one day it would be my last. The closer we got to campus, the faster my heart began beating. And then I saw it. My college, standing exactly where it always had. The same gates, the same buildings, the same pathways. Yet somehow everything looked different. Today I wasn't arriving as a student rushing to class. Today I was arriving to say goodbye. As soon as I stepped out of the car, I could feel the excitement in the air. Students were everywhere. Some were taking pictures, some were laughing, some were hugging friends, some were trying not to cry. Everyone was dressed beautifully. Everyone wanted to make this day memorable. I looked around and suddenly heard someone calling my name. Maria! I turned around. It was Sophie, my best friend. Before I could say anything, she ran toward me and pulled me into a hug. We actually made it, she shouted. I laughed. We did. Neither of us could stop smiling. For years we had talked about graduation. For years it had felt far away, and now it was finally here. Soon our other friends joined us, one by one. The group that had spent years studying together, stressing together, laughing together, and surviving exams together. As we stood there talking, I realized something. This might be one of the last times all of us would be together in the same place. That thought made me unexpectedly emotional. We spent nearly an hour taking photos. Photos near the entrance, photos beside the college sign, photos under our favorite tree, photos that were serious, photos that were completely ridiculous. Every picture felt important. Every picture felt like a tiny attempt to freeze time, because deep down we all knew that after today, life would move in different directions. Some friends were starting jobs, some were moving to different cities, some planned to continue studying. Everyone had a different future waiting, and nobody knew exactly when we would all meet again. Eventually, a staff member announced that everyone should begin moving toward the auditorium. Immediately, the atmosphere changed. The excitement became quieter, the laughter became softer. This was it. The ceremony was about to begin. The auditorium looked beautiful. Rows and rows of chairs filled the room. Families were already finding their seats. Parents proudly holding cameras, grandparents smiling, brothers and sisters waving enthusiastically. I scanned the audience, and then I found them. My parents. My mother waved immediately. My father gave me a thumbs up. Seeing them there gave me confidence. No matter what happened, they were here, watching, supporting me, being proud of me. I took my seat among the graduates. As the ceremony began, a wave of silence moved through the room. The principal stepped onto the stage. The audience applauded. He welcomed everyone and began speaking. I don't remember every word. In fact, I barely remember most of the speech, not because it wasn't important, but because my mind was somewhere else. I was thinking about my first day of college. I remembered walking through the same buildings, completely lost. I remembered being afraid of making friends. I remembered worrying whether I would fit in. I remembered my first presentation, my first group project, my first exam, my first success, my first failure. So many memories came flooding back. Years of experiences passed through my mind in only a few minutes. The principal's voice continued in the background while I sat quietly reflecting. Occasionally, applause would pull me back into the present. Then my thoughts would drift away again. I realized something important. College had given me much more than education. It had given me confidence, friendships, lessons, mistakes to learn from, memories that would stay with me forever. Eventually, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. The certificate presentations began. One by one, names were called. Students stood, walked across the stage, accepted their certificates, posed for photographs, then returned to their seats. The audience applauded each graduate. The process seemed simple, yet every single person walking across that stage carried years of effort behind them, hours of studying, late nights, stress, determination, dreams. I watched each student carefully. Some looked confident, some looked emotional, some looked nervous, and with every name called, my own nervousness grew. My turn was getting closer, much closer. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking slightly. I took a deep breath, then another and another, trying to calm myself, but it wasn't working very well. The names continued closer, closer. closer. Then suddenly I heard it. Maria Johnson. For a second I didn't react. My thoughts were somewhere else. Again the voice called. Maria Johnson. Still nothing. The third time was louder. Maria Johnson! My friend sitting beside me nudged my arm. That's you! My eyes widened. Oh! Immediately I stood up. The audience laughed softly. Even I laughed at myself. My face felt warm with embarrassment. Then I began walking toward the stage. Every step felt slow. Every heartbeat felt loud. And all eyes seemed to be watching. But as I looked into the audience, I saw my parents smiling. And suddenly, everything felt okay. The nervousness that had followed me throughout the day slowly disappeared. I took another step, then another, and before I knew it, I was standing at the bottom of the stage. The principal smiled warmly and motioned for me to come forward. For a brief moment, everything seemed to move in slow motion. The bright lights above, the audience watching, the sound of applause filling the room, the smile on my parents' faces. I climbed the small set of stairs and walked across the stage. My heart was still beating fast, but now it felt different. It wasn't fear anymore, it was excitement, pride, happiness. The principal extended his hand. Congratulations, Maria. I smiled and shook his hand. Thank you. Then he handed me my certificate. The moment my fingers touched it, a strange feeling rushed through me. Years, years of assignments, years of classes, years of exams, years of hard work, all represented by the certificate I was now holding in my hands. The audience applauded. I could hear cheering somewhere in the crowd, and even though there were hundreds of people in the room, my eyes immediately searched for my parents. I found them almost instantly. My mother was smiling so widely that I thought her face might hurt. My father looked proud, the kind of proud that cannot be explained with words. For a second, I felt emotional, very emotional. I wanted to cry, not because I was sad, but because I was happy, because I had finally reached a moment I had imagined so many times. The photographer asked me to face the camera. I adjusted my certificate and smiled. Flash. The picture was taken. A memory frozen forever. As I walked back toward my seat, I looked down at the certificate again. I couldn't stop smiling. I kept reading my own name, again and again, just to make sure it was real. When I sat down, my friends immediately congratulated me. You did it! We finally graduated! I can't believe it's over! Everyone was laughing. Everyone was smiling. And for the first time all day, I felt completely relaxed. The rest of the ceremony passed quickly. More names were called. More certificates were handed out. More photographs were taken. Eventually, the final graduate crossed the stage. The room erupted into applause. We had all made it. Every single one of us. The principal returned to the microphone for a few final words. Then came the sentence everyone had been waiting to hear. Congratulations, class of this year. You are officially graduates. The audience stood. Applause filled every corner of the auditorium. Friends hugged each other. Families celebrated. And just like that, it was over. The moment we had spent years working toward had finally arrived. When the ceremony ended, everyone rushed outside. The campus was filled with excitement. Groups of students gathered for photographs. Parents proudly posed beside their children. Graduation caps filled the air. Laughter echoed across the grounds. I spent the next few hours taking countless pictures with my parents, with my friends, with my teachers, in front of the college building, near the library, beside the classrooms, where so many memories had been created. Every photograph felt special. Every photograph captured a moment that would never happen again. At one point, I wandered away from the crowd and found myself standing alone near one of the college pathways. The same pathway I had walked on my very first day. I stood there quietly, looking around, remembering. I remembered being nervous on my first day. I remembered entering classrooms full of strangers. I remembered wondering if I would make friends. I remembered late night study sessions, group projects, presentations, exams, failures, successes, small moments, big moments, thousands of memories, all living inside these walls. For a few minutes, I simply stood there and let myself feel everything: the happiness, the gratitude, the nostalgia, the sadness of saying goodbye, and the excitement of moving forward. Eventually, I heard my mother calling my name. I turned around. She and my father were waiting for me. As I walked toward them, my father wrapped an arm around my shoulder. "I'm proud of you," he said. Three simple words, but they meant everything. Absolutely everything. I smiled. "Thank you." My mother hugged me tightly. "We always knew you could do it." Hearing those words made my eyes fill with tears. Not tears of sadness, tears of gratitude, because no matter how difficult college had been, I had never walked the journey alone. My family had supported me, my friends had supported me, my teachers had supported me, and now we were all celebrating together. The sun was beginning to set as we prepared to leave campus. Golden light covered the buildings. Students were slowly saying their final goodbyes. The day was ending. I took one last look at the college, one last look at the classrooms, one last look at the place that had shaped such an important chapter of my life. Then I smiled because I finally understood something. This wasn't really a goodbye, it was a beginning disguised as an ending. As I stood there holding my certificate, I realized how much had changed. That morning I had woken up as a college student, nervous, restless, unable to sleep, unsure of what the day would bring. But now, as the sun disappeared behind the campus buildings, I wasn't a student anymore. I was a graduate. The journey that had once seemed impossible was complete. And although I didn't know exactly what the future held, I was ready for it. Ready for new challenges, ready for new dreams, ready for new beginnings. I took a deep breath, smiled one final time, and walked forward, not as a student, but as a graduate.
Wow, Maria, and that was a beautiful story.
Thank you, Alex. It was one of the most memorable days of my life.
Thank you for sharing it with us, Maria.
So that's it for today's lesson. See you in the next video.
Bye, everyone.